Welcome to the Quantum Touch video workshop. This is a workshop that can clearly change your life. You're going to learn some wonderful, powerful techniques for running life force energy. And more important, it's a way for everybody to learn the work together. We have a program set up so that you can watch this video by yourself, but if you work within a group, you're going to learn far better, become far more powerful, and appreciate the work to a far greater degree. We have it set up so that we have financial incentives for people to learn in groups. And we'll talk about how the whole program works at the end of the fourth videotape. But watching this video can help you become a certified practitioner. You can even move on to become an instructor of Quantum Touch. You can watch this video over 2 days or 4 days. I've set this up to run like a real Quantum Touch workshop in 3-hour blocks. Traditionally, we've had the workshop over 2 days, but if some people want to show it in the evenings or in the mornings or afternoons, you're welcome to do so. So you would have 4 times that you'd be getting together. The schedule of this workshop is as follows. On the first tape, we're teaching you the very basic breathing techniques, the body awareness techniques, how to run energy, and be able to see bones actually moving with a light touch. You're going to learn basic hand positions and have your very first practice session. Now, the second video, we're going to work with understanding resonant principles. We're going to work with the meanings of the sensations in your hands. We're going to cover how to vortex the life force energy. We're using the slope breath. We're going to do group practice sessions and much more detail about hand positions. The second part really raises the energy from the first day. On the second day of the workshop, or the third videotape, we're going to raise the power of your work far higher. We're going to work with the amplified resonance principle, which is the power of doing like a group healing session all by yourself. We're going to learn distant healing, how to create a unified field of desire and expectations. So you're going to actually allow yourself to receive the sort of things you want in your life. And of course, we have a practice session with every section of the videotape. In the last videotape, we're going to work with toning. We're going to work with the chakras. We have chakra charging for 2, which is an amazing, wonderful, fun thing to do. We'll have our practice session, of course. We have a section on fun stuff, and you'll find out what that is later. And I'll talk about my vision of the future. So, with that, let's get started with the first videotape, and I'm sure you're going to have a wonderful time. Well, welcome everybody to the videotape Quantum Touch workshop, and it's a real joy to be here and share this information with you. I've been teaching this work for a long time now. I first learned the work about 23 years ago, but to give you some idea, Alternative Medicine magazine called Quantum Touch a significant breakthrough in hands-on healing. Dr. Norman Shealy, the founding president of the American Holistic Medical Association, tested this work on his most difficult chronic pain patients, and he called it the first technique that may truly allow everyone to become a healer. Oh, by the way, Alternative Medicine magazine also said that Quantum Touch was an essential and invaluable skill for every lay person and professional practitioner. We have something that transforms bodywork of all kinds. We have chiropractors who tell me that this work transforms their practice. You'll see before lunch break today that with a light touch, bones will spontaneously move back into the correct alignment. Everybody can do it. It's really that easy. We have acupuncturists who say it transforms their practice. Physical therapists. Well, I remember one physical therapist was doing, he took the Quantum Touch class, and a week after the class was over, he said he's using about 15 to 20% of the time he's using Quantum Touch. After 6 weeks, he was using Quantum Touch over 90% in his practice. It transforms the work. Cranial sacral practitioners, Qigong, we've had Qigong teachers who tell me as soon as they learned to run the energy, they tripled their power right away. We've got Reiki masters who call the work Reiki empowerment or turbocharging the Reiki. Healing touch therapists who say that this work is so much more powerful than anything they had done previously. It's the next step in their work. There's no concerns about picking up anything. We've got something that transforms body work of all kinds, and it's available for you to experience today, to learn it today, and you'll be able to. In fact, faster than you're going to believe, which is just a lot of fun for me. We're seeing phenomena on a regular basis that has not been talked about or discussed in medical literature. We've had people telling me about broken bones spontaneously mending. We're seeing that everybody is able to, like I said, get the bones to move back into alignment with a light touch, which defies the known laws of physics. But we're using the life force energy, as I'll describe. We're seeing people doing healing and allowing the body to accelerate its own process at a tremendous pace. We're watching people being able to raise immune system function and bring down pain, even help balance emotions on a way that's never been seen before. We have psychotherapists, by the way, who tell me that quantum touch also transforms their practice because they're able to help people in ways that they had never seen before either. So it also gives you a new way of caring for each other, a new way of loving. It's a very direct and powerful way for people to care for one another. I remember in one workshop there was an 11-year-old boy named Zach who took the workshop with his mom, and I knew their relationship. They were always battling with each other and fighting with each other and yelling, "Would you stop throwing the ball in the house?" And that kind of relationship. But when they took the workshop, they looked like newlyweds. They had a way of adoring each other openly, overtly, caring for each other. And it was really funny. On the way back home, Zach said to his mom, "You know, Mom, I was secretly wishing I had superhuman powers like the comic book characters. But now I feel like I do." And the next day at school, he tells his best friend, "Well, I've learned to help heal people." And his friend said, "Well, heal me." He says, "Well, do you hurt anywhere?" His friend said, "No." He said, "Well, I could show you more clearly if you had some pain." They were 11, by the way. The kid takes his own hand, slams it on a table as hard as he can, and the hand starts swelling and changing color. Zach picks up the boy's hand, runs energy into it, and within moments the kid said, "Whoa, that's so cool." And they went off and ran off and played. We have something that empowers you to care for other people in a way that's very meaningful. And we'll talk about this in much more detail. I first learned about this work, as I mentioned, 23 years ago. There was an old man named Robert Rasmussen who had come across this work intuitively. He had been an intuitive child growing up. He used to just write the answers down to tests in school, and he got in trouble because the teacher said, "Well, where's your work? I don't see your work here." And they would make him do it over again. And he would say, "Well, if you don't believe, if you believe I cheated, please give me another test." So he'd just write the answers down to these big math problems, and the teacher checked his answers. "Well, I guess if you can do it, it's okay." As time went on, he used to take state examinations for the fun of it. He used to just walk in, write the answers down, become a structural engineer, say, "Oh, I think I'll become a real estate broker." He just had a whole stack of certificates at one point. He told me one time, he said, "Well, I had about 15 of them. I just threw them away one day. I just didn't think I'd ever use them." And he was visiting a woman whose daughter had a severe case of bowed legs. And the daughter was coming home from school crying every day. And he just asked the question, "What can I do to help?" And he got the message to do the breathing and the body focusing exercises, which I'm going to teach you. And he just touched her knees. And within moments, her knees just came right back together again. And she cried out, "Mommy, I can touch my knees together." And from that day forward, he just dropped all his other certificates and career of different things that he could do. And he spent full time running energy and doing healing, often 8, 10, or 12 hours a day for his pretty much his entire adult life, doing hands-on healing work. And by the way, just as a little note, we've seen that happen in the workshop where somebody with bowed legs, woman in her 60s, and the legs just came right back. One person working on each of her knees and worked for both of them. Bob taught this workshop in 1978. And at first he was telling these tall tales about how bones would mend with a light touch, and how somebody with a big tumor the size of a grapefruit melted away in one session. And I didn't believe anything he was saying. He was telling these outlandish stories. And finally he said, well, let me show you what I do. And he invited my friend, who was the person who invited me, to come up to the front of the room. And unlike this workshop, she took off most of her clothes. And standing in front of the room, you could see she had a major S-curve in her spine, a major scoliosis. And he said, well, here's what I do. And he touched her hips, and her hips rolled back into alignment. Then he touched the occipital ridge, and the occipital ridge rolled back into alignment. Then he went up and down her spine for about 10 minutes. And in that 10 minutes, you could see her spine had straightened out about 2/3. And at that point, I realized this was absolutely outrageous. I figured this guy must have a rare, extraordinary gift. No one else is ever going to be able to learn to do this, and definitely not me. But in the course of the day, I saw that I could barely begin to do the things that Bob was talking about. I could barely begin to do it. I had Bob check an occipital ridge, and I could barely get it to move back into alignment. I happened to be his neighbor, and I became his friend, and I'd go to his house about 3 nights a week and try to pick his brain and understand what made Bob so extraordinarily powerful and successful at running energy. Why was he so incredibly good at doing this? And what I found out by picking his brain for years was that he had come across the work so naturally. He didn't communicate it as well as someone who had to actually go through the process. And then I was able to actually go through the training that I had and incorporate things that I had learned to help evolve the work. Plus, there have been many people who have taken the workshops who have helped the work evolve further as well. Now, the first session that I gave completely surprised and amazed me. There was a friend who brought a rabbit to my house. And I thought it was so cute watching the rabbit hop around my living room. And it was lovely until I realized there were these pellets everywhere on the carpet. So I had to capture the rabbit, and the rabbit didn't want to be captured. So I had to corner the rabbit. Finally got my hands on the back of the rabbit, and it was trembling under my hands because, as rabbits naturally figure, they're dinner. But that wasn't my intent. And I felt the rabbit trembling, so I decided to run energy into the rabbit. So I'm doing the breathing and the body focusing exercises, as you're going to soon learn, and the rabbit stopped trembling. And I continued running the energy into the rabbit, and the rabbit did something very peculiar. With my friend watching, the rabbit just stretched its front paws forward and its back paws back as far as it could. And I continued running the energy. My friend was going like this at this point. I continued running the energy, and a few seconds later, I felt the rabbit push against my hands. And at first I thought it was trying to get away. But no, the rabbit flipped over on its back and was stretched out like it was sunning itself on the beach in Hawaii. The rabbit was totally relaxed with my hands on the rabbit's belly. Now my friend is shocked as I am. That was my first shocking experience. The next shocking experience was where I went down to Los Angeles, and a friend had set up a little demonstration before Bob was going to come down and teach in Los Angeles. And there was a woman who was hunched over with severe osteoporosis. Every vertebra was terribly misaligned. I had her put a shirt on backwards so we could look at her spine. And the upper thoracics were sticking out like dinosaur bones. And when there'd be one here, one there, the next one over here, the next one there, and then one here, it was frightening. The lumbar were indented deeply. She walked in and she was hunched over and she looked at me through the top of her eyes. And I had her put a shirt on backwards so we could see her spine. I ran energy up and down her spine very slowly for about 1.25 hours. No technique but the one I'm going to show you before lunch break. And within a period of time, people started saying, is that looking better or is that my imagination? And then after maybe 25, 30 minutes, they're saying, oh, it's definitely looking better. By the end of 1.25 hours, everybody was stunned and shocked because every vertebra was in a totally straight line up and down her spine. The ones that were sticking out had come in, the ones that were in had come out. She stood up and all of a sudden she was a very tall woman. At that moment, as if it was choreographed, some double doors opened, her daughter came in, burst out crying, and said, "Mommy, you're standing up straight." When I got back to my friend's house where I was staying, I sat on the floor, leaning against a wall, and I heard this loud voice in my head, and the voice said, "That didn't happen." Now I realized later you're supposed to listen to the quiet voice, not the one that shouts at you. But I had to argue with that voice because I said, "But don't you remember people what it looked like ahead of time?" And people said, "Is this looking better? Is it my imagination?" And how tall she stood up, and how they were all aligned, and how her daughter came in crying. I had to remember all the incidents, or else I was going to take the experience away from myself. It was that much of a shock to my system to see this happen. The third shock that I got was when I got a call from Bob's friend, and she told me that Bob's had a severe gallbladder attack. The doctors want to amputate. Well, I suppose when your only tool is a hammer, you tend to see life as a nail. But Bob was in deep pain, so I drove about 7 hours down to Los Angeles again, and I worked on him in a motel room. Ran energy in for about an hour and a quarter, and these real deep, intense sessions may take that long. And in the course of that time, Bob was perspiring like crazy. He got up, took a shower, and said, "Thank you very much." And that was the last time he had any gallbladder problems for the rest of his life. And incidentally, Bob passed away about a year ago. Before he did, he asked me if I would take over in his retirement, which is what I've done. And I've been bringing this work out into the rest of the world. Now, there are a few principles of quantum touch that I'd like you to be aware of. The first is that we're using life force energy. And the life force energy is what the Chinese have called qi, the Japanese have called ki, the Indian yogis have called prana, the Hawaiians have called it mana, and Dr. Beverly Rubik, a physicist, has found 76 words that different cultures use for describing life force energy. It's been around for thousands of years. It's universal. I was heading off to Chicago about 2 weeks ago, and I ran into this guy at the airport. We were standing in line together, and we were talking, and he was from West Africa, and he said, "Oh, I understand what you do." He said, my family does this. All the people I know do this." I said, "Well, what do you call this?" He says, "Well, it's the shining that comes off the hands." They're talking about the life force energy and describing it as shining. Not a scary movie, mind you. Just shining energy coming off the hands. Everybody feels life force energy all the time. It's intrinsic to all of us. It's like the background noise of the fan that you don't hear, but it's always there. Life force energy is the animating current of life. It's what differentiates something that's living from something not living. The second principle that we're using is resonance and entrainment. When two things vibrate at different frequencies, there's a tendency for either the lower frequency to come up and match the higher frequency, for the higher frequency to go down and match the lower frequency, or for the two vibrations to meet in the middle. The quantum touch practitioner learns to hold an extremely high vibration with the breathing and body awareness exercises, and throughout the entire session, they keep bringing their vibration up higher and higher and higher. The person you're working on gradually entrains or matches the vibration of the practitioner. Now we can see resonance and entrainment all through nature. Electrical oscillators will if they're similarly tuned, will begin to entrain to one another. Electrons at different vibrations will entrain, and the lower frequency electron will actually match the higher frequency electron. Then you have grandfather clocks pushed up against a wall. In time, all the pendulums will begin lining up to one another as the energy is transferred through the wall, allowing the pendulums to line up. We also see it in biological systems, how fireflies will begin to blink, frogs will croak, and crickets will crick all together. But you might think that's just social behavior. But you can take disembodied animal hearts, put them in a lab on a table, and they're all beating independently. But when they're put in close proximity to one another, they'll all entrain, and all the hearts will beat as one. I know that doesn't sound very romantic, but We also see it in women sharing a dormitory. They begin to menstruate the same time of the month. This is biological entrainment. So the practitioner is holding a high vibration of energy, and the person receiving the session matches that vibration. The person holding the center energy keeps raising their vibration higher and higher. They never come down to match the other person. They never become drained in the process of doing the work. You just get more energy from doing the work. You get charged from doing it. It also brings up another point. Who is the healer? A healer, my favorite definition of a healer is someone who was sick and got well. A great healer is someone who was very sick and got well quickly. You can no more heal another person than digest the lunch they just ate. Their body heals itself. Now, any of you know how you heal the cells? Like, say you cut your finger. How do you do that? How smart do you have to be to figure that out? Which brings up the third point of this work, which is the third principle, which is body intelligence. We're not healing other people. We're holding resonance and allowing their body intelligence to come up and do the healing that it decides it needs. You get that? Now, we pride ourselves as a species as being really smart, and we want to outsmart life a lot of times. That's why we try to study so hard and to control and manipulate or use force to make things happen. But ultimately, we can't outsmart life. We don't understand the functions going on in our own body. There are hundreds of functions to the liver. How many can name them all, right? How many can do them all consciously? There's lots going on in our body that we're unaware of. We've got about 100 trillion cells, and each one of these cells has about 1,000 things happening that we know of every second of the day. We can't keep track of that. I don't know how to keep my heart beating at night. We've got enough DNA in our body, if you unwound it all, there's about a yard of DNA in every cell. And if you multiply 100 trillion times a yard, you could make 200 round trips to the sun with all the DNA in our body. Yet the medical profession has this idea that we try to poison the disease in the hope that the disease dies before the patient, rather than raising the life force energy of the person and allowing their body intelligence to take over, providing the best nutrition, the best emotional balance, the best lifestyle conditions, and the life force energy to raise their system. They're trying to outsmart, to manipulate, to poison, to control the situation that would cause things to happen. Rather than that, we want to learn to trust the process, trust the body to heal itself, trust it to do what it needs to do, what it wants it to do to heal itself. Now, there may be many kinds of reactions that happen during that session. Pain may come to the surface, emotions may be released, but we trust it all because it's all part of the releasing process. The body is probably the most underrated form of intelligence on the planet. If you consider how proud we are of our Human Genome Project, where they've spent tens of billions of dollars and thousands of scientists to understand and get this roadmap of the human genome, kind of like a roadmap of Los Angeles from outer space, or maybe more. We sort of understand some of what it means, but we don't even have a clue about most of it. And how do they figure this out? They have these chemicals that split the split the DNA down the middle, and then they chop it into little bits, and then they put dye markers, and they put it through all kinds of equipment. You know how smart our body is? Our body is so smart that if you have damaged DNA in a cell, even while you're still alive, the cells can heal damaged DNA. That's how smart it is. And we have the arrogance to try to interfere with the intelligence of the system. So I really am excited that we're using the intelligence of the body to heal itself. So we're using life force energy, resonance and entrainment, and body intelligence to let the body do what it needs to do. Now, in order for us to start running energy, we've realized that energy follows thought. So, hold up a finger. And we're going to put our awareness into our finger. Anywhere that your awareness goes, life force energy goes too. Now, the goal of this exercise is to see if you can feel any kind of sensation in your finger by putting your attention there. You could imagine you're breathing through your finger or feeling the pulse going through the finger. You might even imagine you're stroking your finger with a little feather. Anything to generate sensation. Now, when you've generated sensation, see if you can make it stronger. See how strong you can make the sensation. You might try breathing through your finger to get more sensation to come into that finger. Like that. Okay, is there anybody not feeling sensation in their finger? Okay, everybody's feeling it. Good. Now let me speak to the video audience because there may be somebody out there in TV land, hi Mom, who is not feeling any sensation in your finger. And what you can do is fake it. This is the secret. What you do is you imagine you're feeling sensation in your finger and you put all your awareness inside your finger as if you were feeling sensation and you fake it. And that'll work. And you can do that through all the exercises that we're going to be going through that will allow you to be very successful with them, even without sensation. There was one fellow named Kent who used to come to all my lectures and he would help do demonstrations at the lectures, and he never felt any sensation in his body anywhere. But he was able to get fabulous results, as have everybody else who had difficulty feeling sensation, because what he would do is he would just bring his awareness through his body as if he were feeling sensation. Other people who do not feel sensation will find that by practicing these exercises over a period of time, maybe a few days or a week, months, or maybe even a year, all of a sudden sensation may come to them and they'll be able to feel the sensation. Working without sensation is a little bit like working blind. It's not really a problem. You can do the work quite effectively. So we're going to start with an exercise, and your name is? Martin. So I'm going to invite you to come sit in this chair up here. And have everybody take off your shoes. This is the undressing part of the class. And what I'm going to do is a very simple thing. In fact, it's so simple, I'm going to talk about it for a long time, because so many people overcomplicate it, and I just want it to be really easy. You can think of it like stroking a cat. You didn't take any lessons to stroke the cat. It's really easy. You stroke the cat and you let go. You don't kind of go inch by inch stroking the cat. You don't do it with your hands off the cat. The cat would look at you like, what are you doing, right? But you just stroke and you let go. The purpose of these strokes that we're going to do on each other is to be able to get a person to feel sensation in their body on their own. If you leave your hands in place, they're only going to feel your hand and they're not going to be able to feel their own self without you being there. So just imagine stroking a cat. If you stroke without touching, the cat looks at you weird. If you just leave your hand on the cat looks at you weird. But if you just stroke and let go, you're doing perfectly. If you go too slowly, the cat is going to give you some weird looks also. So we just want a nice pace. It's important to let go after you stroke. So I'm going to demonstrate it. It's not very complicated. I just start at the feet, and I stroke up the feet, and I let go. I don't have to do it perfectly. I don't have to cover every inch. Now you put all your attention into your feet and try to generate some sensation in your feet on your own. And when you have generated sensation, you say, okay. All right, good. Then I stroke up the leg to the knee. Now generate some sensation in that area. Good. Put your hands over on the side. And I stroke up the legs and let go. And then across the belly. There's no exact way of doing this. Okay. We'll come up the chest. And, oh, he touched with the back of his hand. Just was convenient. Didn't really matter. Okay. Then I'll skip an area. We'll come down the head and face. All right. And then I'll go to the arms. Okay. And then we'll go to the open hands and end in the open hands. Good. How's that feel?
It feels the warmth.
You feel
when you touch me,
yeah.
almost immediately I would feel the warmth.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Now, feels pretty relaxing for most people. Pretty wonderful. So, are there any questions about this exercise? All right. Well, again, we're going to stroke. Just stroke the feet, let go, then go up to the knees, let go, then up to the pelvis area, stroke across the tummy, up to the shoulders, then down the head, arms to the hands. This is the direction. You want to stroke, let go. Don't go too fast. Don't go too slow. Don't try to heal the person. This is not about trying to heal them. I've seen people try to concentrate and do things. It's not about that at all. It's just a touch to feel sensation in your body. Oh, yeah, I can feel sensation there. Now, there will be some people who have blocked areas where they do not easily feel sensation. There may be their thighs or their tummy or their chest or different places. Have the person stroke that place again. Say, can you please stroke it again? And the person strokes it again. And then, if you still can't feel it after a second or third try, skip it. Go on to the next place and have them go work on another area and stroke that. So, I guess we're ready to do the exercise. So let's break up into groups of 2 and let's practice with each other. All right. So you don't have to worry about grounding yourself. You don't have to worry about being grounded when you're doing this work. The process of putting your awareness back through your body automatically grounds you. So it's a wonderful aspect of the work. Now, let's go into the second stage of running energy. If I can borrow you again. I guess I'm going to pick on you for a little while. Okay. So the second step of this exercise is just like the first, but a lot faster. Just let your legs drain. So I just do the entire leg in one swell foop, okay? And then go to the whole tummy area to the top of the shoulders in one sweep. And
I can feel the same, the warmth.
It's already going.
Feel your warmth.
But it's not really my warmth. My hands aren't hot.
It could feel that way.
It could feel that way. All right. And the third step is down the arms all the way into the open hands. Yeah, so you're just feeling it moving through you. That's actually the life force energy. Thank you very much. If, in case it didn't come out on the video, what she says is she's feeling warmth, and she thinks it's my warmth. But actually, it's the life force energy that she's perceiving and experiencing it as warmth. Now, I've done demonstrations for so many years, and sometimes I'd come in on a very cold night and demonstrate the work on somebody's shoulders or back or different places. And I remember people wearing cashmere sweaters and put my icy fingers on the cashmere sweater and say, "Oh, your hands are so hot." And I'd say, "Really?" And I put my hand in front of them and they touch my hand and go, "Oh my God, your hand's icy cold." Because the life force energy is perceived as heat. Now, I'm not doing any healing work right now, but you're feeling your own life force energy as heat. Most people experience this as a very relaxing and delightful experience. So those watching the videotape, at this point, you should have already done the first exercise. If you haven't, stop the tape and please do it. Right now, I'm going to ask you to stop the tape and do the second exercise. So let's do that now. Let's do the second exercise. Yes, for real. Okay, it's getting a little easier, a little faster. Now let's do the third step. Now those people watching at home should already have practiced the second step of the exercise. Now we're ready to learn the third one. So if I can borrow you again.
Excuse me.
Right. Now we're going to do the whole body in one sweep. So I go up the legs, up the middle, down to the hands in one swell foop. And are you feeling that throughout your whole self?
Yeah, I feel very relaxed.
Very relaxed. Great. Now stand up and turn your back, and we'll do the whole back side now. So those of you who are wondering, how come you didn't do the back? Well, we're doing it now. So we go all the way up to the head, down the shoulders, arms. Nice?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Okay. Now, some of you may want to have it done a second time or a third time. Feels good. You know. So enjoy yourself. Say, can you do that again? Can you do that again? Well, healing was never supposed to be about suffering. It's a good feeling thing. So why don't we, those of you watching on video, why don't you stop the tape and practice this with each other now, and the rest of us will just practice here at this point. Great. This exercise feels better and better as you do it more and more. Now, this exercise is just training wheels. Once you learn to do the hands-on healing work, you're not going to need to come back to it at all. Once you take the training wheels off a bicycle, you don't say, well, I think let's put the training wheels back on and see how I ride for a while. No, you're going to go without it. You're going to be doing this by yourself, which is what we're about to start doing right now, which is that I'm going to have you cup your hands, very soft hands. You don't want any pressure on your hands, just soft hands, cup your hands. Now, as you sit here, imagine that you're being stroked from the feet, up the legs, up the torso, to the top of the head, down the shoulders, down the arms, into the hands. So feel as much sensation as you can throughout your entire body and bring that sensation into your hands. Okay, now what are you feeling? Is you feeling sensation gather in your hands? Heat? Excellent. You're getting the first part. Now, let's build it up and start doing some breathing techniques, because breathing techniques are going to empower this much stronger. Okay, so we're going to start the breathing techniques. All the breathing starts below the belly button, goes to the top of the shoulders. You want to be fairly erect. You don't want to be all slumped over. These are pretty full breaths. Not necessarily 100% full, but you want to move a lot of air. The breathing is your self-protection. The breathing keeps your vibration at a very high level, which means you are never going to entrain to the other person. Now, there's this mythology, by the way, now that I'm thinking about it, that people actually pick up conditions from the other person. And a lot of practitioners will say that they feel tired or drained at the end of a session, or that they picked up a condition from somebody else. That never happens with quantum touch. In fact, that never actually happens. What does happen for some people is if they entrain or match the vibration of the other person, then their body does something sort of similar to what the other person's body does at that vibration. It's not like vibration is contagious, but if you were with somebody who was really happy and you became happy too, or if you're with somebody who's really miserable and you became miserable too, it's your own misery you're feeling, not their misery, but it's your own misery at their vibration, or their own joy at your own joy at their vibration. So you don't really pick up things from the other person. So the breathing holds you at that higher vibratory level and allows you to maintain it more effectively. And because you're continually doing the breathing and what we'll call the body sweeps throughout a session, you'll be able to keep raising your vibration higher and higher. Now, let's practice what I call a 4-4 breath. And a 4-4 breath is where you're inhaling pretty much a full breath of air to the count of 4, and then exhaling to the count of 4. And a count is about 1 second in length. So let's try that. Breathe in, and then out. You can do this through your nose or your mouth. And it's just a nice smooth pace. Breathe in, and out. Now, here's the trick to this breath to make it work effectively. What you want to do is you want the inhalation of your breath to coincide with a sweep of body sensation from your feet to the top of your head. So on the inhalation, feel that sweep going all the way to the top of your head. And on the exhalation, you want to feel a rush of sensation down, gathering into your cupped hands. So let's do that together. Feel the inhalation and the sweep together. You're linking them together. Count of 4 so that you can hear it really loud. Yes, you want to breathe through your mouth on the inhalation. You can breathe through your nose or your mouth on the exhalation. So practice that. Breathe in. And feel the sensation gathering in your hands on the exhalation. This is a very powerful sensation. Now, if you start getting dizzy or spaced out, you're going to back off on your breathing a bit. You definitely don't want to do so much that you're getting dizzy. And you definitely don't want to do this technique while you're operating heavy equipment or machinery or operating a motor vehicle and blah, 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 blah. So, this is a technique that really holds a lot of energy. And I'm giving you a series of them, and you can pick and choose the ones that feel best and work best for you. There's no correct or exact answer in terms of which technique is best when. You'll be able to figure it out on your own as we get started. A third breathing technique is for those who feel that this was too intense for them and they need a softer technique that you can just do more comfortably. This is a 2-6 breath. And you don't have to count the whole time you're doing it, just get it going. So the 2-6 breath with the nose or the mouth on the inhalation and exhalation. 2 counts in and now try that together. Inhale for 2 and exhale for about 6. And feel as much sensation in your hands. Gather as much sensation in your hands as you can on the exhalation. I don't use this breath very much myself, but some people find it comfortable to use and they can use it. The more air you're moving, the more life force you tend to bring into your system. But you don't want to get too dizzy and you pass out and it causes lots of problems. Okay, how's the sensation? Is it getting stronger in your hands as you're practicing more? Okay, good, great. Now, the last breath in this series is one that we're going to practice a number of times because it takes longer for people to learn this one in many cases. It's a modified breath of fire. It's a fire breath. The best description I've ever heard of it came from one of my teachers, and she said it's a little bit like being out of breath. It starts with a big inhalation, and then there's like some very rapid panting. Now, panting is not all exhalations. Panting is exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. And it sounds like this. I'll demonstrate it first. It's a big inhalation. Maybe 6 or 7 inhalations. Just take a deep breath in and then let it out to the count of 4 or 6 on the exhalation. So, it's a big inhalation in with a bunch of inhalation exhalations like you're panting, followed by a big inhalation in, and then you exhale it out. So it starts with a big inhalation, there's panting in between, and then you exhale slowly to the count of 4 or 6 on the way out. So it's pretty simple. Big inhalation, lots of panting, exhale slowly to the count of 4 to 6. So let's do it together. So a big breath in, big breath in, and now breathe out. And now pay attention to the sensations in your hands. Put all your awareness into your hands and continue one of the other breathing techniques. You don't want to do this technique more often than once every 2 or 3 minutes, because if you do, you can get so lightheaded you can fall over. We don't want that happening. You also don't want to do more than 6 or 8 breaths, because that can also get you too lightheaded and get you passed out. It was interesting. There was a workshop I gave in Boston many years ago, and a Harvard student attended, And I suppose he knows that a lot of his teachers aren't telling him the whole truth about things. So when I told him that we don't want you breathing for more than 6 or 8 breaths, 6 or 7 breaths, and not to do it more than every 2 or 3 minutes, he thought he was just going to see how much he could do. And standing in the corner of the room by himself, he was going, and he just kept going. And all of a sudden, while I'm talking to these people over here, we hear this loud crash as he's banging his bridge of his nose against a heavy leg of a chair, and hitting his head on the wood floor. And when he got up, he was like, "Whoa! What did I do?" Well, fortunately, he was surrounded by people ready to do hands-on healing sessions. That was the good news. And it was actually quite amazing because we could actually see this huge cut, this huge bruise across his forehead actually shrinking in size as that session went on. And the bleeding stopped almost immediately. After about 10 or 15 minutes, he said the pain stopped and it never came back throughout that weekend. And the next day when he came back, he didn't have black eyes. So it was very demonstrative of how effective the healing was and what not to do. Okay? So don't continue doing the breathing. Let's practice it again. Big inhalation. Big inhalation. And feel the sensations in your hands. This really boosts the energy of a session and raises your life force energy very strongly. It gives you lots higher vibration to work with during a session. And you can do it from time to time to pump the energy to be even more effective during your sessions. So, it's time now to have an interesting demonstration. Now, I measured you, and your hips were off in a really nice kind of way. And if I can borrow you for a moment, have you come up here. So we're going to get this on camera. Now, as I measure the hips, what you want to do is you want to put your fingers into the sides and press down and see where they stop. And if we get a good camera shot on this, I'm going to get down really low so you can see where my fingers are. I do a close-up on the fingers. And can you see the right side is higher than the left? Good. And it's about, yay, much higher. Now, why don't you measure and do what I did and put your fingers there on the sides, press in. Now you got to get low so your eyes are level with your fingers. Can you see the right side's high? Very clearly. Now, thank you. Now just as a point of, I want people to be really clear. If I try to measure the hips from this position, I might be able to know the right side's higher, I might not. This is wrong, this is right. Eyeballs level with fingers. This is wrong when you're turning your head to see it from this angle because you want your eyes level. This could also work if you get yourself low enough so that you can see what's there. You got to do that or on one knee. So if you want to check the hip position, you want to get that level. Now, why don't you demonstrate? You already measured the hips. What you do is just put your hands here and here, very softly on the sides of the hip. Do we have a good shot of that? Okay, we got a good shot. The hands are very softly there and there. Go ahead. Put your hands, no, you don't have to be low. You're not measuring now. Now just do the breathing and the body focusing exercise. Why don't we turn you around this way so people can see? That's good. And just run the energy. Do the breathing, get as much sensation into the hands. Now, are you feeling anything as she does this?
Warmth.
You're feeling warmth. Where do you feel the warmth?
In my lower back, right?
In your,
underneath her hands.
Underneath her hands.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Now this works at least 90% of the time. And it's lots of fun. And by the way, I had a chiropractor tell me that, I've had a lot of chiropractors tell me this was impossible. And because when a person's standing up, it's physiologically impossible for the body to restructure and realign itself. That's why they put you on their side and they go crunch or use different techniques. There are subtler techniques that many chiropractors are using too and work wonderfully well. Well, let me measure and see what you've got so far. Okay, why don't you measure now? Bring the camera around here. I'm going to get low, and you can see where the fingers are. Got that? Great. Now, why don't you measure yourself, since you've already learned how to do that? See, that's great. What do you see?
Yeah, it's pretty even.
Yeah, it's completely even now. Yeah, the bones move back to alignment with a light touch. Thank you. So, I remember it was really fun. In one of the workshops that I taught, a woman brought her husband, who was a chiropractor. I've had lots of chiropractors in the workshops over the years, but in this one class, he had not come to one of the lectures. And when it came time to demonstrating that the bones move back into alignment with a light touch, I said, hey, you're the chiropractor, why don't you come up here and measure? And he measures, and he said, well, it's high on the right. I said, great. Now that you're up here, why don't you demonstrate to the whole group? And he said, well, I've never seen it done. I know it's impossible, and I know I can't do it. I said, well, that's all quite irrelevant, because it's not about your belief that makes it work anyway. It's the life force energy resonance and entrainment. So he said, what do I do? I said, well, just put your hands on the hips and run the energy. But I looked at his hands, and they were like rocks. They were iron hands. This guy was strong. He knew he had to, quote, manipulate people, push, force things into place. I said, no, soft hands. This is one skill he didn't have. So I kept shaking his hand for like, 30, 40 seconds. I said, no, soft hands, no, soft hands, soft hands. We finally got him to have really soft, loose hands, because we were not using physical force to make this happen. You had very naturally soft hands. And he does it, and the hips go back into place, and he looks at it, he measures, and he says, no. He says, no. I mean, he's taught at chiropractic college. He knows this can't happen. And this is my favorite kind of skeptic, by the way. He said, I've got to see that again. So he finds another person. And he says, I got to do that again. So he does it again. The hips are uneven, and he runs the energy, and they level out. He says, no, I got to see that again. He did it 5 times in a row on different people before he just kind of stood on the side with this huge grin on his face, like just totally astonished, because we're doing something that's considered physiologically impossible. But appreciate, the chiropractors were right. The body wants the bones in alignment. How do I know this? I'm positive, because you didn't think right side go down, left side go up, they should be at 37.5%, this side could go up this much, that side. It's too complicated for any of us to figure out. It all is part of the natural process. Now, I call the work quantum touch because I realize that what we're really doing is affecting matter on a quantum or subatomic level. Deepak Chopra wrote, in order for consciousness to affect matter, it has to happen on a quantum or subatomic level. You can't affect cells and organs and tissues and bones and ligaments and tendons. You affect the stuff that makes up the subatomic particles. Deepak Chopra wrote, in order for consciousness to affect matter, it has to happen on a quantum or subatomic level. I met a quantum biologist named Dr. Glenn Rain, who had tested healers and found out they were affecting the winding of DNA by consciousness. Now, what is subatomic? Subatomic is that level beneath the atomic level, and when the physicists are looking at the stuff that makes up everything, you look at the glass of water, think of the water, it's H2O, hydrogen and oxygen, but the subatomic particles that make up the hydrogen and the oxygen are something entirely different. The first thing that they notice about these particles is that they're not particles, they're calling them energy packets. And that is because they have no mass. They don't weigh anything. Well, why do they call them particles? They're not anymore. They have no mass. Well, why do things weigh something? It's a mystery. Why things weigh anything when the stuff that makes it up has no mass? The second thing is that when the scientists expect the particle to spin 2 or 3 times, it would. The guy who thought 2 times, it would, and the guy thought 3 times, it would, so they started blinding the experiments so the expectations of the scientists wouldn't impact the spin of the subatomic. The subatomic stuff that makes up everything is what we're actually affecting, and it works its way through the body intelligence, through all the systems, the organs, the glands of the body, all the tissues of the body. It affects the ligaments, the tendons, the muscles, the bones, affects everything. And then, in our gross awareness, we see the bones moving back into their alignment. And we say, ugh, bone move. Because we're not seeing the billions or trillions of changes that are taking place on subatomic levels. We're not seeing how the whole body integrated the energy to allow your hips to move back into place. We're just seeing the end result. And then people say, oh, I see, quantum touch is about moving bones. Yeah, I suppose that's one way of looking at it, but we're affecting everything in between. So we have one person who told me she worked with 8 AIDS patients and brought them all down to unmeasurable or nearly unmeasurable levels of the virus. We have practitioners who tell me they're working with cancer patients, and that the cancer patients, well, one of the practitioners, he keeps hearing this from the patient's doctors over and over. Doctors saying, we've never seen this before, where we've never seen an aura around a tumor, where the next time the tumor shrinks down, and the next time the tumor disappears, and the doctor wanted to do exploratory surgery after that was over. We've never seen this before, said another doctor, how a tumor had tendrils coming out, going into the tissue, and then after a couple sessions, it was just a hard little lump that was isolated by itself and it wasn't spreading out around the body. The body heals itself. We don't have to understand it, we don't have to figure it out. We just have to hold that resonant field and let the body do what it wants to do to heal itself. So let's cover some hand positions, and then you're going to get started doing your first session with each other. So, can I borrow you this time? All right, and have you sit up here. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this table and spin you around. Very good. This is good. Your hair is off to the sides. Good, so it's easy to see. The most basic hand positions, we're only going to cover some basic ones now. We'll go into much more detail after lunch. But right now, if there's neck problems, you want to use your fingers on the sides of the neck. Now, I'm holding these 3 fingers up. And Bob Rasmussen liked to call this a tripod position with a thumb, index, and middle finger. You can concentrate with intention and have the energy go out your fingertips as opposed to out your palms. And you can concentrate the energy very powerfully that way and have it go into a small area. You want to create a field of vibration that's going through an area. So you use both hands and run the energy into the sides of the neck. Now I'm standing at an angle so the camera can see me, but if I was doing this for real, I would be standing a little more like this, so I would be comfortable. You always want to be comfortable when you do it. You could come down the neck, lower and lower. Here's the 7th cervical, it's the big bump that sticks out in the back of the neck. You could run energy into that spot. If there was shoulder pain, you just touch the shoulders. Run energy into where the pain is. The most basic technique of this work, oh good, I get to spin you around, this is fun. The basic technique is called the where does it hurt technique, where you put your hands where the problem is. Then we chase pain or sensation anywhere it goes in the body. When sensations move through the body, that is our body's way of talking to us. Our body says, hurts here. And you run energy there. And then the person in this one case said, oh, now I feel it here. This was like a 3-day migraine headache that was never going away. Then while the person was working, all the sensation went to the throat. And she said, well, now I feel it all in my throat. And then a few minutes later, the woman said, well, now I feel it all in my liver gallbladder. So the woman worked into the liver gallbladder area. The whole body heated up, she perspired, and then the headache disappeared. Because you don't have to understand the physiology. You just let the person tell you what's happening. So, hand positions for the neck, both sides of the neck. Have you stand up. And for lower back, I would put my thumbs on the lower back. Now, if you said the pain was here, I'd put my thumbs where you said the pain was. If you said the pain was here, I'd put my thumbs there. If the pain is down lower, I would go lower. I just put my thumbs there and rest my fingers. And one of the beauties of this work is you can do it wherever you are. If you're in a cafe, you can always have a person sitting or standing. I've done this work in bookshops, I've done it in train stations, done it in parking lots. Everywhere I am is my office. Have hands will travel. It's really easy. So you could run the energy with your thumbs out there. Any point in the back that hurt, you could take your time, run energy into every part of the back that was in pain. You could hold a shoulder that was in pain. But the main thing to do is say, where is the pain? So if the person said it's in my shoulder, that's not enough information. What part of the shoulder? Well, the person said, well, it's under this shoulder blade. Well, I wasn't going to think of that. So you want to run energy through it. You want to sandwich it between your hands. If they said it's in the, right here on the tip of the shoulder, well, you run energy through there. And if it's a very concentrated area, you might want to use these 3 fingers. If the pain moves to another spot, like I was working up here in the upper back, it might move to another spot. So you chase it to the next spot. And you want to have soft hands throughout. You don't want to have your hands tight, because tight hands block the flow of the life force energy. And if you want to see bones move, if you're shoving, it'll stop the bones from moving on their own accord. And then lastly, turn you around here, if I was working, say, through your heart, I would have one hand behind, turn around to the side, and one hand in front. So I'd be running energy right through the heart area or any organ that you want to be working on. So you sandwich the body through the organs that you're wanting to work. So you know what to do if there was a knee problem. You hold the knee. Great, thank you. And this brings up a very interesting little thing, which is that if you think about it, quantum touch is so natural, everybody automatically almost does it right away. What do you do if you bang your knee really hard? You go, ow! Huh, that sort of looks like where I'd put my hands if I was doing a quantum touch session, right? And you're going, ow, ow. You're doing the breathing too, right? So one of the beauties of this work, aside from the fact that we have practitioners of all modalities, we have people who have all kinds of beliefs. All religions are welcome. All belief systems are welcome. You don't have to change your belief to be able to do it. You just breathe deeply and run energy and put your hands there and let the energy work. Those who want to pray first, that's great. Want to align themselves, that's fantastic to do. Realize the client is in control of the session. Remember, I said the healer is the person who was sick and got well? Keep a dialogue with them going so that you know what they're feeling. And if the pain moves to another spot, they may want to move your hand. Say, well, now it's over here. Well, now it's up here, and now it's over there. Their body is speaking a very simple language. Follow that language from place to place. Let them help direct where your hands are and where the session is going. And I'll show you a few of the common mistakes that people make during sessions right now. So why don't we have you two pretending to be working on each other right here. Come up here. Do you have any pain anywhere?
Yeah.
Where?
It's here and here.
Okay, did you injure?
Tendinitis.
Tendinitis? All right. So why don't you run energy into this spot. Now, this looks pretty good. Can you get a shot of this? Great. So you would be running energy into that. Now let me show you what not to do. I'll demonstrate wrong. Okay, why don't you stand back a little bit? Yeah. This would be a bad position because I'm uncomfortable. I've seen people do this a lot. This would be bad. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm squeezing your tendinitis. Okay. Using pressure, that would be a bad thing to do too. What was the third one? Oh, yes. So the other thing that the practitioner can do wrong is to forget to breathe. So as long as you're breathing deeply and you're not squeezing too tight, you got real soft hands, and you're not in some weird position, trying to do the work, and you're making yourself comfortable, I recommend you kind of move around. Like if I was working on the shoulder, I've seen people do this a lot. But, stand, try different positions, experiment, play with it, find what works best during a session, and work with that. And that makes it very, very effective to do that. And then run energy into the parts. So in your case, it would be the tendinitis, and we'll run energy into there. And the last thing I'm going to mention here is that help each other. when you're watching the video and you see somebody in the room and they're stretched out or they're in an uncomfortable position, they're trying to work on somebody's knees like this, have them sit down, have them put the legs up, try different angles, different positions. If you see somebody with tight hands, or if somebody's got tight hands on you, people don't realize how tight their hands are. It's very common. Go ahead, shake their hand a little bit, help them out. Say, hey, loosen those hands up. Shake them up a little bit, get them to have soft hands. And if a person stops breathing, encourage people to breathe. One of the few things that I do during a workshop is I nag people, and I encourage, keep breathing, everybody. So the facilitator, who's hosting this workshop that you're watching on video, can say, okay, everybody, keep breathing, and do that periodically because people will forget to breathe. You need to breathe 100% of the time in 100% of the sessions, and that is what makes this work really effectively. So let's have the people watching the video now stop the tape and give each other, well, actually before you stop the tape, here's the instructions. You're going to want to give one-to-one sessions with each other, and these are going to be 15-minute sessions. So I give you a session, you give me a session, and then we'll switch partners, and you give somebody else a 15-minute session, and then they give you a 15-minute session. So you receive 2 15-minute sessions, and you give 2 15-minute sessions. This gives you a wonderful experience of running energy and wonderful experience of receiving the energy from different people, the different qualities of energy. So you'll give each other a 15-minute session, receive one, give it to someone else, and receive one. And so why don't you stop the tape and do that, and we'll come back again when you turn the tape on. Now, when you're working on somebody, say you were working on somebody's sinuses, right in this area here, and you're holding their sinuses, and you decided to do the fire breath. What's wrong with this picture? You'd probably want to turn your head like that. So be aware that when you're giving a session to each other, you don't want to breathe in their face, okay? Be aware. I've had people working on me, first day students, where I forgot to mention this, and they'd be running energy into my neck, and I'd feel my hair going. So be aware of this, and especially if you've eaten a lot of garlic or such. So you've had your practice sessions. This is great. What I'd like to do is we're going to take a few of your stories from the practice sessions you've just received, and I'd like to hear what happened to them, and then we'll have people who have been practicing at home. You can tell each other what's happened, but first I just want to tell you a couple points that I would have liked to have covered earlier. One is that when you're doing the fire breath, you don't have to worry about trying to do a full body sweep on the inhalation. You don't have to worry about anything. Just do the breathing. That's enough for there. Then focus on body sensation again and keep the breathing going. That works really well. Another point that I like to always mention, but I skipped it, was that you don't want to try to run energy through leather. Leather seems to drink up the life force energy like a sponge. It's as if you're trying to bring the leather back to life. It just doesn't get very far. I tried running energy into my belt. Just never quite came back. Now, it's okay to wear leather if you're not opposed to it philosophically, because it doesn't affect your own life force energy. But when somebody's trying to run energy into your foot, you got to take those shoes off. Into your back where the leather belt is, you want them to take the leather off, because the leather will absorb that life force energy. So, I'd like you to be concise, and let's hear some stories. Who had something shift and had some dramatic kind of healing going on during the session? Let's see. Who'd like to begin? Okay. Let's pass him the mic.
I had some pain in my hip, and it definitely shifted up my back. And then I had some pain up in my forehead, which slowly worked its way down to my shoulders, and then seemed to just dissipate from there. Both of them kind of met in my back and then just kind of disappeared.
And what about that pain in your hand?
The pain in the hand, I cut my finger about 3 weeks ago. It's been quite sore and works quite well right now.
How about that? Not too shabby, huh?
No, not too bad
Okay.
at all.
Who's next? Okay. Let's just pass the microphone around. Okay, you are. Great. Let's pass the mic over there. Yeah.
For the past couple of days, I have TMJ, and my jaw's just been out of line. It's been popping when I chew, so it's been causing a lot of headaches. And when I had energy running through me, I just felt it kind of like move through my head, and then they were focusing on my head area, and it just kind of like dissipated. And like now, it's not popping, which is a really good feeling.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you. That's great. And who's next? Yes.
Experiencing a slight headache. I'm assuming that it was sinus from the rain and what have you that we're experiencing. And when Kaya was working on me, that cleared. And then she just intuitively started going to other places in my body. And when she got to my right thigh, I explained to her that I've had sciatica. And so she concentrated in that area, and I feel less numbness and more relief from that discomfort.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
How quickly and fast this stuff works. What else? Who else experienced some healing? Okay, we got you up here.
Yeah, when I came in, I had pain pretty sharp all throughout my arm, and then it, on and off during the session, it would increase and go down, and then it concentrated to one spot and dulled quite a bit.
That's great. This is the tendinitis you had said.
Yeah.
So the tendinitis went down. Now this is quite common, that sometimes pain will flare up and appear to get worse temporarily during a session, and then it just dissipates and goes away. It's part of what I call about trusting the session, because you say, oh my God, the pain's getting worse, but then it just melts away, because that's part of the healing. One person once used an analogy, stirring up a bucket of muddy water, that when you start stirring it, it gets more muddy before it all clears out. So, what else?
Well, I had pain in my shoulder and hip from an accident from years ago, and it's chronic. So as they put their hands in different places, I could feel it moving from the shoulder, for example, into my arm, which I'm not usually aware of, and then back up into the shoulder. And then at one point, it felt as if there was an opening and a lot of tingling, lightheaded, not lightheaded like I was dizzy, but a tingling in my right side of my head, like there was something, I felt opening here.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, so it's all looser now. It's just feeling better.
Wow, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Those people watching this video at home, what I'd like you to do is go around the room and have everybody, every single person, share their stories about what's happened. You'll be absolutely amazed to find out that everybody's experienced something quite interesting and valuable. So go around the room, share all the stories, and when you're done, turn the TV back on, the VCR, and we'll have some questions and answers that you may have been thinking yourself.